I feel totally refreshed. Totally refreshed. I don't know if it was the honey or the graham cracker coffee, but I'm feeling good. The cocaine and the honey. Edit that out later. It's a hell of a drug. Careers in educational and school psychology. Oh boy. Hopefully you guys got that reference. Okay, educational and school psychology. I made a Dave Chappelle reference. He's a comedian. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. Dave Chappelle? Yeah, he's hilarious. He had a show back in my day when I was 17, Chappelle Show. Did I what? No, I did not. That was a great show. All right, educational and school psychology. Fairly popular subfield, about 16% of master's degrees and 9.5% of doctoral degrees in psychology. So we have two different types of psychologists here. We have educational psychologists and then school psychologists. What you're probably used to hearing about is school psychologists. These are people who are in schools, working with kids, doing testing with kids for special education, etc. Educational psychologists are researchers who research education, learning styles, things of that nature. So what you end up seeing here is that educational psychologists, they're predominantly working in academic settings. School psychologists, that's the applied work where they're working in schools with kids. It's a good option. Now, educational psychology, that's the research field. That can go by different names. Those programs, learning and motivational, instructional psychology and technology, measurement and evaluation. School psychology, the applied one. We see here median salaries. Those are going to vary depending on what type of school you're working for, experience, level of education. People could be school psychologists. People can be called, excuse me. The honey's kicking in. No, I'm just kidding. People can be school psychologists with either a master's degree or a doctoral degree. So it's, I think earlier I might have said that you could only be called a psychologist if you have a doctoral, but actually for school, if you do a master's degree, you can be called a school psychologist and practice school psychology independently. To be an educational psychologist, you have to have this doctoral degree. But again, school psychologist, you can have a master's. A specialist degree is a master's plus 1 year of additional practical experience. And then doctoral degree can lead you to become a school psychologist. Specialist degrees are becoming more and more popular. That's the trend, is for students who want to be school psychologists to get these master's degrees, go for 2 years, get their education, and have that one additional year of practical experience to get their master's and specialist degrees. So we'll watch a video here of somebody who's
My name is Dr.
school
Tamika
psychologist
LaSalle,
with
and
a
I am an
PhD.
assistant professor at the University of Connecticut in the school psychology program. School psychologists are uniquely situated to work collaboratively within teams to support students' ability to learn and teachers' ability to teach. They engage in a wide range of direct and indirect services, including data collection and analysis, assessments, progress monitoring, looking at resilience and risk factors for students from certain groups, academic and learning interventions, mental health, and behavioral interventions. School psychologists receive specialized training through coursework and practical experiences that are relevant to both education and psychology. The average PhD program takes 5 years. During that time, some of the coursework includes assessment, school-wide practices, family and school collaboration, diversity, professional ethics, consultation and collaboration, and early development. In addition to coursework, you will also engage in practicum experiences in K-12, hospital, or clinic settings, and an internship that will be the culmination of your PhD experience. During your practicum and internship experiences, you'll work with another school psychologist at varying levels of support as you become more familiar with the roles and responsibilities as a school psychologist. Also, as a PhD student, you will be required to complete a dissertation. For your dissertation, the idea is to choose a topic of interest that is also relevant to the field and to create a study and write it up and present it at the culmination of your degree. Upon completion of your degree, you will also become credentialed by your state agency as a school psychologist. You can also become nationally certified through the National Association for School Psychologists. With a PhD from an APA-approved program, you will also be eligible for licensure as a psychologist. For students considering a degree in school psychology, I have 3 pieces of advice. First, do your research. It's important to understand the field and to understand the impact that you can have in the field. I encourage you to look at www.nasonline.org to find out more about the roles of school psychologists and expectations. Also, I think it's important to research the programs that you're applying to because it takes a tremendous amount of commitment to enter into a PhD program. And so it's important to understand, what does it mean to be a full-time student? What does it mean to be meeting the course requirements? And to be able to commit the time that it takes to complete the degree. Second, it's important to also shadow a school psychologist. I think that by doing this, you can get a greater understanding of what does it mean to be a school psychologist from a day-to-day basis. Although the roles change across schools, by shadowing a school psychologist, you can still get an understanding of those core job aspects that we engage in on a regular basis. Finally, as a school psychologist, I think it's important to consider your ability to work collaboratively with others. We have this paradox of school psychology where we believe that we're entering the field to work with children. That's partially true, but a lot of our impact is in working indirectly with individuals to create better outcomes for students. So it's important that you can be a team player and work with other adults to help students.
Certification program. I wanted to become a school psychologist, and I'm a student because at Fairleigh Dickinson University. I'm in the School Psychology Master's Plus Certification program. That teaching wasn't for me. I wanted to become a school psychologist. I took the direction because I majored in psychology, elementary ed, and psychology, and knew that teaching wasn't for me. And pursuing. I took the direction of psychology, and I really enjoyed working with kids and counseling. So I eventually am pursuing a career in school psychology. How to be a school psychologist. Currently, I'm an intern at a high school in a public school district. I work side by side with a practicing school psychologist who is teaching me how to be a school psychologist. Through observing and I'm with her every day, and we go through the motions of what a day looks like for a school psychologist. I'm learning through observing and actually putting what she teaches me into practice. I took classes that taught me how but before I had my externship, I took 2 years of classes that helped prepare me for this externship. I took classes that taught me how to administer IQ tests and other informal and formal measures. I've learned about the different disabilities that students have, also the difficulties with learning in school that they may encounter as well. We learned about statistics and how to analyze and evaluate reading numbers and things like that. We also with teachers and other employees within this. We learned about reading problems and math problems, and consultation with teachers and other employees within the school. But also a little scary. My favorite part about being a future school psychologist is how every day is different. You walk into school not knowing exactly how your day is going, which can make it exciting, but also a little scary. I like that my least favorite throughout your day part about while you have things scheduled, other things pop up and it just makes your day interesting. You don't do the same thing because you're helping so many different people. My least favorite part about being a future school psychologist is it's difficult when the amount of directions that you are pulled because you're helping so many different people. You're helping teachers, administration, students might not be able to get the help they need for one reason or another. It's difficult to see something like that. I wish that someone would have told me that this is not a 9-to-5 job. This type of work, you really go home thinking about what happened during your day. It's a lot of self-reflecting and did I do the right thing? Did I say the right thing? Or even just worrying about your students. If something came up that day, you know, it's hard to not think about them before you go to sleep at night, just hoping that everything has worked out. Some advice that I would give the future school psychologists out there is you should work in a school before going to your practicum hours or doing your internship. Being a substitute teacher, an aide in the classroom would be a really beneficial learning experience. You get to see the side of the classroom that you don't get to see as a school psychologist, and you really understand what the teachers go through on a day-to-day basis. So it makes you a lot more relatable, and you know, you can understand and sympathize with them when they're dealing with difficult students or difficult situations. So working in a school would be the best advice that I could give someone who's looking to go into this profession.
Hi,
There's
my
a
name is
video
Carol,
here if
and
you're
I
interested
work
on
as an educational researcher
what
for a
somebody
large
who has an educational
not-for-profit
psychology degree does.
educational
Again, they're mainly
organization.
doing
So
research.
educational research in a broad sense is just using research methods and statistics to answer education-related questions. Questions about students and student learning and what relates to student learning, teachers and teaching, and classrooms, schools, or school systems. So as you can imagine, it's pretty broad. For me, a typical day is consisting mostly of project-related work. So at any given point in time, I am working on anywhere from 3 to 5 different research projects. So what I do in a given day is dependent on where I am in the research process for each of those projects. So I might be in meetings for a portion of the day where we're talking about research question and brainstorming ideas, or talking about what research design would be the most appropriate to answer those questions. I might spend some time collecting data, either finding or administering surveys or questionnaires, or conducting focus groups or interviews if we're collecting qualitative data. I might spend a portion of my day at my computer, at my desk, analyzing data once we've got it. We either are using qualitative data analytic techniques, or we're using some kind of statistical software to help us analyze quantitative data or numeric data. So that requires me to be at my desk. At that point, if the project's a little further along and we've already run our analyses, I might spend my time interpreting the results, writing reports, or creating presentations that we'll use to present the results of the study to someone else. So it's pretty varied, and I would say that takes up the most of my day, the largest portion of time during my day. However, there's a smaller portion of time that's more kind of logistical things. So checking my email, responding to email, making phone calls, filling out timesheets. We have to keep track of how much time we spend on each project for budgeting purposes. So that's a much smaller but still a part of my day. In terms of the work week, I work anywhere from 40 to 45 hours on a given week. I don't typically work nights and weekends, but I do occasionally if I've got a couple deadlines coming up and I'm not going to meet them, or if I have a report that I need to finish, I will work at night or on a weekend to get that finished up. But overall, I don't normally work more than 45 hours a week or so. Our business hours officially are 9 to 5:30, but my office where I work is pretty flexible. I like to come in around 7:30 and leave around 4. I have colleagues that come in at 9:30 and leave around 6. So depending on where you work, you might have more or less flexibility as to your work hours. In terms of stress level, I would say that my job is moderately stressful, and that stress mostly comes from having deadlines and the fact that my projects are, I'm kind of in charge of my own projects, so I'm in charge of them getting done on time within budget. So there's a moderate amount of stress related to that. I would imagine it's not nearly as stressful as a job where your pay is tied to what you produce, like a sales job or a medical doctor. We're not saving lives, but to the extent that I want to do a good job and want to get things done on time, it is moderately stressful.